welcome to South Asia Today, a show that provides you the glimpses of South Asia. I'm your host Yeshi. Here are the headlines. Latest batch of Indian students evacuated from war-torn Ukraine arrive home. Nepalese man hopes to preserve traditional form of printing lithography in modern times. And people hold massive anti-government protest in POK against arrest of local leader. Let's begin the show. Indian government has evacuated nearly all its citizens, most of whom were students from the war-hit Ukraine, through its massive evacuation effort under the banner Operation Ganga. And not just this, in what could be genuinely referred to as a humanitarian exercise, the government of India has also saved non-Indians, including a Pakistani girl who heaped praise on New Delhi for its act of humanity. We have a report.
This is one of the latest batches of medical students from Ukraine to have touched down the Air Force base near Indian capital New Delhi. Over 100 students, some accompanied by their pets, arrived at the airport in northern Ghaziabad city. An Indian student was killed by shelling in the eastern Ukrainian city of Kharkiv last week, prompting New Delhi to step up demands for safe passage to evacuate thousands of its nationals trapped in the war zone. The government, with a massive logistics arrangements, not only brought students stuck at the border but also from the areas that were under siege. The movement became possible after a humanitarian corridor was created by both the countries at war. And while some had been directly transported, others were picked and airlifted from the border countries of Ukraine. The students said a few more were left in the country. The government has assured that everybody will be brought back under the Operation Ganga that has already reached its last phase, with nearly all being evacuated.
तो जब हम निकल रहे तो खैर सीज फायर हो गया था, तभी हम निकल पाए हैं, बट उससे पहले खराब थे और उसके आने के बाद भी हमने सुना है कि बहुत हालत खराब हो गए हैं. उससे पहले हम बॉम्ब की आवाज़ सुनते थे, शेलिंग होती थी, फायरिंग होती थी, बट जैसे जैसे हमने मैनेज किया वहाँ से और अपने आप को स्ट्रॉन्ग रखा, बस बिलीव किया कि एम्बेसी हमें जल्दी निकालेगी और आज हम यहाँ हैं.
The foreign ministers from Russia and Ukraine met in Turkey this week, but no breakthrough could be reached, a warning signal for those who continue to remain trapped in the war-torn country. Russia's invasion has already uprooted more than 2 million people in what the United Nations calls the fastest humanitarian crisis in Europe since World War II. Foreign nationals, predominantly medical students from different countries, have been flown back, with India leading the evacuation operations. Through constant engagement with both sides, the government has tried to ensure that its citizens do not face troubles even during the stranded phase.
चॉप बॉर्डर, फिर हंगरी बॉर्डर, फिर रोमानिया, उसके बाद इंडिया है, तो कोई दिक्कत नहीं हुई हमें.
In a massive exercise, apart from the private commercial flights, the Indian Air Force had flown 12 missions to bring back nearly 2,500 Indian nationals. As per the date provided by the Indian Ministry of External Affairs, among the civilians' flights, 4,575 passengers have been brought from Bucharest by 21 flights, 1,820 from Suceava by 9 flights, 5,571 from Budapest by 28 flights, 909 passengers by 5 flights from Košice, 2,404 Indians from Zezov by 11 flights, and 242 persons by the flight from Kyiv. However, what has been lauded across the global forum is the country's endeavors towards humanity above all. Overall, a Pakistani national, a Nepalese citizen, 2 Tunisians and 13 Bangladeshi nationals were rescued by India. Asma expressed her gratitude to the Indian government for safely evacuating her from the bombing zone.
I'm very thankful to the embassy of Indian Embassy of Kyiv for supporting us all the way here, as we were stuck in very difficult situations, and also thanking the Prime Minister of India, and thank you so much for supporting us, and hope we get home safely because of the Indian Embassy.
The government, however, says the mission is not over until the last stranded citizen return home. it will continue to send more flights and relief materials for those who have been affected by the war. New Delhi has sent over 32 tons of relief till now. India's stance, unlike many others, has been neutral since the war broke out. However, the government has appealed for peace and cessation while sending aid and assistance to the affected.
Moving on to the Himalayan nation Nepal, where the traditional form of printing process known as lithography is in safe hands with an aim of preserving the ancient technique in this modern age of digitization. Facing constant threats from modern and sophisticated printing techniques, a Nepali youth hopes to preserve traditional form of printing which now is endangered. Have a look.
Himalayan nation Nepal is popularly known as a place carrying an amazing blend of culture, lifestyle and festivals. An artist from the Himalayan nation named Kabiraj Lama is working on to preserve the traditional form of printing, the lithography, in this modern age of digitization. Through constant efforts in practicing, this Nepali youth is determined to hold this ancient printing technique in this era. Lama has been inspired by the strong cultural and spiritual environment of his country.
It's a very classic technique, and then in many universities and in many countries, this technique is not onto the academic course. So I thought that it should be preserved, and I'm practicing this amazing technique, that woodcut in Nepal, to preserve to preserve and then to give other people knowledge about the old sutra printing. You know how the text and then Tibetan sutra blocks, and then the mandala they used to carve, and then they used to transfer onto the paper when there was no any digital print, and then no any computer.
Lithography is widely recognized as one of the oldest printing techniques, which now is scarcely in practice. Lama grew up witnessing his grandfather making wooden blocks and using pigments to make various prints. In the year 2010, Lama was in Japan for his studies, and a lecture of the professor took him to flashback, and then his real-life journey into preserving the ancient form of printing took off the foothold. Kabiraj found an eternal interest in wood and stone print techniques, which gradually transformed with technological advancement.
When I went to Japan in 2010, and then I got a chance to study at Mesa University, and that time my professor, when he taught me about this wood block, and then I went back to my childhood. That was, which I saw that my grandfather was doing the same process. So after I came back from Japan, I realized that I should preserve all these blocks. So I went to my village, and then I asked my relatives, my grandfather and other people to preserve all these blocks. So they are ready to give me all this block, and now I am archiving all these blocks.
Kabiraj Lama is now one of the modern doctors of the fine arts who has always kept the ancestral printing technique alive. His works are mainly dependent on three techniques: the lithography, woodcut and etching. He exercises any of the techniques depending on the suitability of the subject. In his words, Kathmandu Valley is one of the most fertile places for art, and it facilitates lithography to flourish and prosper provided the weather and other cultural as well as religious traits.
Now we take a look at some happenings in Asia in our segment called Asia Watch.
A memorandum of understanding was signed between the Indian Embassy in Kathmandu and the Nepal-India Women Friendship Society for the distribution of LPG gas stoves, gas cylinders and accessories to underprivileged households in 3 districts under the financial assistance of 20.4 million Nepali rupee of the Government of India. The MOU was signed on the occasion of Women's International Day under India-Nepal Development Cooperation in districts Sarlahi, Rotahat and Saptari. 3,000 LPG gas stoves, gas cylinders and accessories are being given through NIWFS in 3 districts with a grant assistance of 20.49 million Nepali rupees. This scheme is one of the 75 projects being inaugurated this year in Nepal as part of India's 75 Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav, which celebrates 75 years of India's independence. Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps has successfully put a second military satellite, the Noor-2, into orbit, according to the state media said on March 8th. Noor-2 is orbiting at an altitude of 500 kilometers. The first military satellite launched by the Islamic Republic in April 2020 placed the Noor, or light in Persian, at an orbit of 425 kilometers above the Earth's surface. The announcement came as talks held in Vienna to revive an agreement restraining Iran's nuclear program have reached a critical stage. Putting a second satellite in space would be a major advance for Iran's military, raising concern about the country's nuclear and missile programs. South Koreans headed to polls to elect the country's next president, capping a race that has been marked by a series of surprises, scandals and smear campaigns. The winner of the election will face mounting challenges including deepening inequality and surging housing prices that have strained Asia's fourth largest economy. A total of 14 candidates initially registered, but it has shaped up as a tight two-way race between Lee Jae-myung, the standard bearer of the ruling Democratic Party, and Yoon Suk-yeol from the conservative main opposition People-Powered Party. They are vying to succeed incumbent President Moon Jae-in, who is constitutionally barred from seeking re-election. The winner's single 5-year term is set to start on May 10. Aeon Group of Japan supports and nurtures young people through Aeon 1-Person Club Scholarship. In the wake of COVID-19, scholarship completion ceremony was held online for foreign students in Japan.
イオンスカラーシップの皆さん、ご卒業おめでとうございます。イオンスカラーシップを通じて知り合った大学や国籍の枠を超えてお互いに励まし合い高め合いながら成長されてきた仲間とのネットワークを大切にしてください。皆さんが各国と日本との架け橋となって将来を担う次世代のリーダーとして世界の平和の実現に貢献されるよう期待をしております。
Barata Tripabudia Ongo is a scholarship student hailing from Indonesia. He recently graduated from Chiba University after 2 years of scholarship. He completed his computer information processing as he has a dream to be an IT specialist. He will work as computer specialist at a Japanese company.
新しいスカラシップ制にあって、彼らの夢とかも、自分も初めて押し込んだ時に自分の夢もあったので、そういったことを聞くことによって、自分もモチベーションも上がりましたので、自分の経験からすると日本はすごく第二国境みたいになってしまっていて、すごくいいつながり、友達もいっぱいできましたし、一緒の財産になったかなとは思います。日本に来るためには、おそらく自分がやりたいことをまず決めて、日本に留学したら何をしたいかっていうのはちゃんと考えた上でした方がいいと思っています。
Lai Than from Vietnam also received Aeon 1-Person Club Scholarship. She is working at Aeon Vietnam as an interpreter of Japanese and Vietnamese. Aeon 1-Person Club steadily grows up future leaders and proves to be a bridge between Japan and rest of the world. NYK or Nippon Yusen Kobushiki Kaisha is a multiple transportation company. To contribute to environment, it has taken several initiatives to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. It sets a target of net zero emission by 2050 with development of new fuel ship participation of offshore wind power electric generation. In 2019, NYK established a new green business group to accelerate these efforts.
グリーンビジネスグループのですね、ミッションというのはですね、その中で、いわゆる低炭素脱炭素という流れの中でですね、単なる社会貢献活動ではなくてですね、プロフィットセンターとしてですね位置づけております。3チームで担当してやってるんですが、1番目はですね、 洋上風力発電に関わる事業ですねをやっております。発電の脱炭素、再生可能エネルギーのですね一つ大きな切り札と言われているところで、ここに入っていきたいというふうに思っております。2つ目はですね水素アンモニアといったですねCO2 を出さないですねエネルギー源、これのですね事業開発を行っております。水素アンモニアでございましたら、これはまず日本でですねこの技術をですね導入した後に、やはり今アンモニアの石炭鉱床などでですねそういう需要が非常に高いアジア諸国に対してもですねこの技術をですね広めていきたいと。3つ目はですねどうしても出てくるですね CO2 をいかに処理する、いわゆる地中に埋める、我々はCCS カーボンキャプチャー&ストアレッジと呼んでるんですけど、そこに向けてですね CO2 を船で輸送するという事業およびですねその CO2 をですね削減する取り組みでクレジットを生むと、いわゆるカーボンクレジット事業等々もですね合わせて行っております。3つ目のチームが担当しているもう一つのことは LNG というですね船に LNG を供給する事業をですね行っております。これも将来ですね水素アンモニアというものが船に使われるということが今取り組んでいるわけなんですが、船で使う LNG の燃料を販売するという事業にも積極的に取り組んでおります。これからですね、世の中のいわゆる低炭素脱炭素の流れの中でですね大きく求められている部分でございますので、まさにですねこれを今後ですね一つ一つの事業をですね伸ばしていきたいと。でそれがまさに我々が標榜するですね ESG 経営ですね ESG 経営の核になる部分だと信じております。
To survive as multiple transportation company, NYK is aware of the role to contribute to environment protection.
Moving on, local residents in Pakistan-occupied Kashmir held a massive anti-government protest against arrest of their local leader Sardar Liaquat Hayat. He was arrested by the local police, and a concerned administration then slapped a number of charges against him and put him behind the bars. We have a report.
Massive anti-government protests have erupted across Pakistan-occupied Kashmir after the party head of Jammu Kashmir National Awami Party, Sardar Liaquat Hayat, was arrested by the local police. Police arrested him after his protest call against the government gathered massive traction amongst the youth of the region. Several demonstrations against the unprecedented price rise and discrimination against the people of the region followed. A cornered administration then slapped a number of charges against him and put him behind the bars. Languishing behind the bars for several days now, Liaquat Hayat has urged the government to take steps into the direction of people's welfare while appealing to his followers at the same time to not give in to the coercive tactics of the government and continue their struggle for rights.
हम जेल काटने पे तैयार हैं। हम एक लंबे अरसे तक हमारा इशू नहीं है। मसला यह है कि आप बुनियादी इश्यूज के ऊपर जो महंगाई का सुनामी है, जिस तरह के हालात हैं, जो सूरत हाल है, हम आपसे अपील करना चाहते हैं कि उन इश्यूज को जिन इश्यूज की वजह से हम आज सलाखों के पीछे हैं, उसको मुनज़्ज़म करें और इन जालिम हुक्मरानों से अपने हुकूक छीन के लें।
The local government, which apparently runs at the behest of the leaders of Pakistan's federal government and the army generals who hold a great sway on the country's politics, has launched a crackdown against all forms of dissent and disagreements. Leaders who dare to speak against the administration or do not fall in line with the government's way of working are handled punitively. They are framed under draconian charges and thrown in prison. And this has been a successful modus operandi so far. It takes months, sometimes even years, to get oneself free of the charges. Till then, they remain behind bars. The protesters who have carried out peaceful marches till now have, however, said that this time they will also respond differently to this form of atrocity.
हम इस काल थाने का घेराव करते हैं तो यहाँ से अंजुमन ताजरान, यहाँ की सिविल सोसाइटी भरपूर तरीके से उस काल का हिस्सा बनेगी। अगर नेशनल आवाम पार्टी ये तय करती है कि हमने पूरी रियासत को जाम करना है, हमने पहिया जाम करना है, उसके लिए भी हम उनके साथ कंधे के साथ कंधा मिला के चलेंगे।
The erstwhile state of Jammu and Kashmir was illegally occupied in part by Pakistan following the partition of British India. It's been nearly 7.5 decades since then. The people of occupied Kashmir continue to face more than one form of subjugation by Pakistan's civil administration and the army. And whenever there has been any form of resistance or any expression of dissent by the locals, it has been brutally suppressed by the authorities.
When it comes to connecting with one's spiritual senses, no other religion in the world has had an impact on people as much as Buddhism. But in India, the religion is not just limited to meditation, prayers and teachings as many people might believe it to be, but also celebrates a number of festivals with great fervor and devotion. So today, let's take you to witness the celebrations of two such festivals that beautifully showcase the culture, lifestyle and rituals followed by Buddhists.
Thousands of people thronged the magical mountain kingdom of Ladakh as it hosted the annual 2-day Dosmoche festival. Also known as the Festival of Scapegoat, it is one of the most famous prayers festival in the Union Territory. On the first day, monks from Matho Monastery performed a spectacular mask dance, also known as Cham, at Chaukhang Vihara in Leh. On the second day, Dhos and Storma were carried from Chaukhang Vihara in the form of huge procession that passed through the main market and culminated at Katmoche. While Dhos is a multicolored thread structure that was made by the monks of Dakthok Monastery, Storma, a butter cake, was made by the monks of Diskit Nubra Monastery. The festival concluded with the burning of both these items amid chanting of prayers by the monks from various monasteries. This ritual symbolizes the elimination of all the evil spirits. Locals believe that celebrating this festival protects them from all kinds of natural disasters.
दोस्मोचे जो है ऐसे एक यूनिवर्सल पीस के लिए, विश्व शांति के लिए, महामारी, भूखे, ऐसे पेंडेमिक ना हो, इसकी वजह से हम मानते हैं कि विश्व शांति के लिए बड़े पूजा होते हैं। तो ये 2-3 दिनों का जो पूजा हमेशा हर एक मोनास्ट्री का बारी-बारी से राजवंश से चले आ रहे हैं।
Just after Dosmoche, which is the last festival of New Year celebrations, falls Losar, also known as the Tibetan New Year. The 3-day festival is celebrated with great enthusiasm at prominent Buddhist sites across India. Decked up in new clothes, people visit the Buddhist temples and also their relatives. In Dharamshala town of Himachal Pradesh, Tibetan diaspora observed the occasion with a lot of religious, cultural and merrymaking events. Namgyal Monastery, also referred as Dalai Lama's temple, was also thrown open after 2 years for the general public and tourists. It is a major tourist attraction in Dharamshala that was lying closed due to coronavirus.
Today is Tibetan New Year, which is called as Losar, and here people are, after a very long time due to the COVID situation, now the temple is open and everyone is like visiting here, and we all are very happy to be visit our temple after a long time.
On the third day of Losar, Tibetans in exile perform Sangsol prayers, a custom of offering incense. Led by the monks from Nachang Monastery in Dharamshala, the prayers were held for the long life of Dalai Lama and for the cause of Tibet at Lagyari Temple. A number of colorful prayer flags that are used to promote peace, compassion, strength and wisdom were also tied around the temple to mark the occasion.
Today is the third day of Losar. So after 2 years, we are very happy that we are celebrating Losar, and today is the very auspicious day that we are doing fire incense burning puja. So everybody comes here and we burn like incense. So it's like it will bring prosperous and good luck for all the people, and especially we pray that for His Holiness long life, and for free Tibet.
If one wants to gain insight into the Buddhist way of living, witnessing festivals like Dosmoche and Losar is elementary. Moreover, they are also an opportunity for the expression of devotion and gratitude to the Buddha and his teachings.
It's time for me to wrap up today's episode. We will be back next week at the same time. This is Yeshi signing off on behalf of the entire production team of South Asia Today. Goodbye and take care.